Hello, welcome back everyone to the video in Science 10. Previous videos have looked at the source of energy and basically the concept of climate and weather, and as well as, like I mentioned earlier, the energy flows through our biosphere, right? Of all those combined, of course, it makes very different climate around the world. You see some pictures here. You have you have an example of two examples of tundra, and you have taiga there. Those will make sense, but these are all cold weather you've probably seen within Canadian regions. That's why I included these. But these are there's a variety of climate and living conditions for animals and plants. Okay, those are what we call biomes. We're going to formally define it, and we are going to take a look at some examples of biomes. So first, what is biome? Well, biome is, to keep it simple, like it says here, it's a large region with some common climatic properties. Okay, usually with a particular range of temperature and precipitation. That's unique, but we usually identify it with animals, which you can much easier to observe. As I said, biomes contain plants and animals which adapt with those that adapted to their climate. Okay, so it's usually fairly easy to identify a different type of biomes based on its animals. Those are observable. Of course, you can measure the temperature and precipitation. Okay, those are the actual determining factors, but those are require specialized tools to measure, of course, and collect. Now, when you think about biomes, okay, be careful. Earth is interconnected. Okay, Earth is all interconnected. It's not going to say, okay, I'm gonna right here it's going to be tundra. I'm gonna walk over there. It's gonna be taiga now. It's not how it works. The changes are gradual and slow because it's an open system. Each biome exchange matters with its surroundings. By matters, I mean plants and animals, right? Plants doesn't just grow in one spot. Say, okay, I'm only gonna grow here. I'm not gonna go over there because it's a different biome. That's not how it works. Plants are going to spread. Same thing. Animal can move from one spot to another. There are no invisible walls separating different biomes. So this makes determining biomes very difficult. Okay. As I mentioned here, organisms can travel between, as well as energy. Energy of the sun can transform. So it's not very easy to determine what a biome is. Okay, not as easy to determine exactly what a biome is. There are no set cutoffs, but we still have some. But we know over large distances, Alberta is different from the rainforest in Southeast Asia, right? It's completely different, but it's over a large distance. So there is definitely a way we could separate on a big scale the difference between a rainforest and the Alberta prairies. Okay, but be careful. The cutoff is not sharp cutoffs. There are transition. There's almost every location is actually a transition zone between, if you want to call it, between biomes. Okay, just to make it clear, the hydrosphere, which is the water cycle, is actually considered a closed system for our studies. So we'll not be studying the ocean. Okay, the hydrosphere is actually considered a closed system. It exchanges energy, but not matter with its surroundings. Okay. Now, generally, okay, for our purpose, like I said, it's very difficult to classify. If you look online, depending on the sources, depending on the study, there's going to be more detailed study of detailed classification of biomes, or there'll be a slightly less general. They will just summarize based on different properties they are studying. Okay, that research and study is for. But for our purpose, we're going to study the 6 general, I guess, like biomes that most people can agree on. Okay, can agree on, and it's not set in any way, like I mentioned. Okay, depending on the study, depending on the purpose of a study, depending on what you're researching, it is convenient. It may be important and convenient to adjust these definitions and expand the categories, so you encompassing more details or remove unnecessary complications to study. But these are the 6. But we'll talk about the 6 in general. Okay. The key here, though, is doesn't matter what classification it is. A biome, okay, defines a biotic community. Okay, how life exists. It's characterized by plant life. Okay, and a lot of things vary between them. Okay, as you see up above. Okay, above. For each biome we're going to study, we're going to briefly look at the general precipitation, temperature, soil type, topography, altitude. Remember, they're all interconnected. It's not a solid cutoff line. It's like, oh, the temperature is this in one day. I guess you're wrong. You're mixing up temperature with climate. Again, if you say that, you're mixing up temperature with climate. These are general trends, scientific models that are trying to model a general trend for specific biomes. Okay. And dividing Earth into biomes help scientists study, understand interactions between living and non-living things, right? When things move, why do animals look a certain way? Why do animals behave a certain way? Same thing with plants. Same thing with non-living things. The animals may interact with as well. Okay, what are things to expect? And of course, how biome interact with each other, not just within the biome, but different biomes, especially those are very close to each other. Okay, those close to each other. The biome might be very close to each other. The animals might be a little bit but still be a little bit different. Why is that? Right? Why is that? And just remember, as we move forward, okay, dividing into biomes is difficult. So do not think any of the things I'm going to show you is like set perfectly. This is the exact definition of a biome. This is only a general definition or general properties of biome we're studying. Okay, so what are the biomes and where do they exist? Okay, so here is one of the maps. You probably will, if you just Google biome maps or something like that, you might find. Okay, so this you can see there is already more than 6. There's 7 here. Okay, trying to go in a little more detail. You have the tundra and ice. I mentioned that earlier. You have the desert regions. Okay, in the Middle East area and Northeast Africa. You have the tropical rainforest. I mentioned Southeast Asia, and in fact, West Africa area as well, near the equator. You have grasslands. Okay, you have grasslands here in Alberta here. Okay, probably you know what it is. And you have things like taiga. You have I don't know how to actually pronounce this. Chaparral. I think it actually have a different name for it. But you have these different climates. If you look at I don't know how it is clear it is on the video, but if you look at the labels on the side, those are some of the biomes considered. Once again, there is 8 of them. It's more detailed already than what we actually use, right? It actually separates different kind of forests, right? Temperate in the mid-range, rainforest, right? Mid-range rainforest, and tropical rainforest, right? So depending on what location it is, okay, because not all rainforests are tropical. All right. So this is one map you could see. But even though, like I said, it's hard to make a hard cutoff, the general trend of how each biome distribute, this map shows you. Okay, just to show you, the biome maps are not exactly the same, depending on the purpose, depending on the model. Okay. Oh, it's difficult. Okay, here's another one. Okay, you can see the ocean, of course, is 70% of the Earth. You can see this one is, of course, divided much more detailed version in terms of biomes. But you should be able to see, right? Deserts, temperate grasslands. So desert is still in the Middle East area, right? And the subtropical desert, still desert, East Africa, right? We still expect Africa. They decided to group temperate grasslands and temperate desert together, right? So that you notice that grasslands in Alberta here, but still tundra, still the Arctic Circle, right? The North Arctic Circle, those are still tundra, and rainforest, and tropical rainforest, still Southeast Asia, the areas we see earlier. Okay, not exactly the same, but a general trend are remain the same. Okay, and as you're going forward, as you might notice, a lot of what we're doing is general trend. We're not looking at here's the cutoff, here's specific definition. Okay, and that's you'll be where we see very common when we if you look more into climatology. Depending on the purpose, you have to pick a specific cutoff, but in reality, everything's interconnected. Okay, everything's interconnected. All right. Finally, this is just a little chart to get you think about a Biomes a little bit. Okay, think about you just based on this chart. There's a similar chart in page 400 of your textbook. You can take a look. Okay, you can take a look. This one has animals pictures in there as well. Okay, just generally how temperature and precipitation appears in different biomes. By no means you have to remember that. By no means you have to remember this chart specifically. There will be information and notes about the six specific type, the six I should say specific six general types, which you can use for reference for what precipitation is. But just show you, tropical rainforest tends to be the warmest. Okay, tropical savannas, okay, tends to be the warmest. Tundra tends to be the coldest. At the same time, rainforest, right, has most precipitation. Desert, while it might be warm, not as much precipitation. Okay, even though they're in the same temperature scale. Tundra, same thing. Tundra, it's very little precipitation and low in temperature. Okay, but it's enough just talking about the name of biomes. Let's go in details. What are the 6 general types we're going to look at? Well, first, let's start with tundra. Okay, tundra is important because it is something that exists within Canada. Okay, so it's usually in the Arctic regions of North America and Eurasia. Okay, so Siberia, northern Siberia. It's within the Arctic Circle. Once again, it connects around cut off. It's around 66.33 degrees north. I forgot to write the latitude north. Okay, north. This is not vector direction from physics. This is latitude. Sunlight, depending on where you are, of course, it can. If it's during a summer solstice, you can have 24 hours no sundown. Okay, if you remember the Earth's tilt, that is why. Okay, or sun that never shows up during winter solstice. Same reason. You're tilting away. Actually, you hide away. So not all of tundra area will have like that, but some of it will. Okay, some of it will. If you remember the assignment, we actually talked about why this happens a little bit. Okay, why this happens. Okay, but this is the reason why it's actually this is indirect reason why it's so cold. Really, it's because the sun's energy doesn't reach as much in those areas. It has the lowest amount of insulation, and it's snow covered most of the time, which means it's higher albedo. If you remember from our earlier sun and the climate, if you have a lot of albedo, the sun is going to be sunlight is going to be more likely to be reflected than absorbed. If it's not absorbed, there's no heat, no thermal energy. Adding on top to the reason from the assignment you did, the tundra at temperatures tends to be really cold. So it has really short summers. Okay, soils are permanently frozen, and precipitation is really, really low. It's just around 20 centimeters. The only thing you might notice is we don't always measure using centimeters. Sometimes we use millimeters, so 200 millimeters per year. Okay, if you want, because you might see most precipitation measured in millimeters or centimeters. I just want to show it here. Precipitation is very low. It's usually 20 centimeters for the entire year. Okay, for the entire year. So you might think, hey, Edmonton is pretty cold. Alberta's pretty cold. Is Alberta tundra? Well, Alberta actually gets quite an amount of rain and precipitation in the form of snow as well. Right? So no, Alberta is not tundra. You should know what Alberta's biome is. Okay, you've heard of it at least. Okay, so precipitation is very low and usually just snow. And temperature, of course, it is average temperature. Okay, if it gets really cold, it can be really, really cold. When it's warm, it's only a little bit warm. Okay, but generally, the average temperature is around 15. This is average. So average temperature usually range around -15 to 5 degrees throughout the year. Okay, throughout the year. Once again, general trend. General trend. Don't be like such hard. There's no hard cutoff here. There are always some connections, especially on the edge of the tundra areas. Now, because it's very cold and very little water, there's very few plants that we normally see that can survive up there, right? So only the plants that evolved to adapt to it can live there, like lichens, mosses, and shrubs. Okay, and they only grow on the active layer above the frozen soil. Okay, if it's frozen, there's no nutrient; they cannot survive on it. Okay, they're small and close to the ground to minimize heat loss, minimize energy loss. So you'll see those kind of smaller plants. If animals, you'll have these kind of animals. Once again, they're usually small animals, okay? Or if they're bigger animals like polar bears, then they have thick coats and squat bodies, okay? To keep the heat, the idea is either lose less heat for small, or keep more heat in, thick furs, okay? Thick furs, a combination of both. So here are some image. Okay, you'll see that the dark these regions are the tundras in the world. Okay, these are tundra regions in the world. Okay, so here's some animals type, right? Thick fur, and of course, it might look like it's grassland on top. It's actually on top of like it's not like there's no plant life there, but you notice there are no big trees here, right? It's all small plants. Okay, small plants on top of frozen soil underneath. Okay, and very small leaves. You don't want to lose too much heat, and animals like plants are small. So these are some examples of things you might see in a tundra. The next one to look at is called taiga, or you might be also be called boreal forest. Boreal, I'm not trying to pronounce it. Boreal forest. It's just south of tundra. It's like tundra. Basically, it's going to be somewhat cold, but they have a lot more trees because there's way more sun. Okay, way more sun, way more energy put in, way more energy cycles. So you have more growing seasons than tundra, and the soil tends to be a little bit acidic. That's not going to be our focus, though. But the only thing I want as acidic is because it supports plant life. Okay, but not too much variations because it's pure nutrient values. That's it. You don't need to know the fact it's too acidic. You just need to know that there's not much plant variation in plant life there, because there's more sunlight and more energy cycles. Okay, there's quite a bit more precipitation compared to tundra regions. Okay, from 40 to 100 centimeters, or if you want 400. Maybe I'll just do this one more time for future ones. I'll let you convert to millimeters on your own per year. And most of it, because of the cold temperature, okay, it's still snow. Okay, but there's more precipitations, allowing for more plants, a little bit more diverse in life. Because if you remember, water have a really low specific heat capacity. If there's more precipitation, and the most obvious, it's a little bit more southern. It's a little bit southern and seeing more sunshine. It's also a little bit warmer. The summers are cool, and the winters are really cold still. Okay, average temperature is still from 4 degrees to 14. Winter is still really cold. Remember, it's average temperature, but summer is warm enough to balance it out. Okay, summer is warm enough to balance it out. So you have cool summers and cold winters. Maybe something you like. You can move up northern Canada. You'll get some of these biomes. Plants, of course, you still have it's still pretty cold, so you still have planted shrubs, but you have fewer shrubs. Evergreen photosynthesize all year round now because you have the sun. You do not need to worry about leaves. So you do have bigger trees, as well as other plants that may have needle leaves. Okay, I can only think of pines. I know there's a bunch of examples there, but I only think of pine. Um, but you're gonna see some of the bigger plants start growing. That's why it's boreal forest. It actually trees growing in those areas. Okay, where trees. There are much fewer plants that start growing tall trees, but the trees will look very similar. Less variety, right? Because they all have to be able to survive the cold. It's warm enough and enough nutrient in the soil to grow them, but it's still pretty cold. You don't want to lose those heat and energy within the plant. Animals, of course, are why we are a little bit more a variety as well. Woodpeckers, moose, bears, things you would expect to see in northern in northern Canada. Okay, you probably hear stories even in the Rockies, like things like that. Okay, some examples of where taiga exists. Wink, wink. They adapt usually in the forms of hibernation, storage of food, all that stuff. Okay, so that is taiga. Okay, you can probably think about how much of Canada is taiga. Just think about it. Okay, this is just a hint to help you think of the question. If you ask a foreigner who never been to Canada, what does Canada look like? They probably describe Canada as a taiga biome kind of place. So think about why people have that stereotype. Okay. Of course, here are the region. Here are the regions of taiga, the green dark green parts of taiga here. Okay, taiga. Let's also give the answer I just asked. Taiga. Okay. So taiga, North America, in Russia. We don't have that concept in the southern hemisphere because the colder area is just the Antarctica. It's frozen, completely frozen. Okay, but yeah, there we go. There's some animals you will see. Okay, animals you will see. You'll see almost the entire forest, lots of different kind of trees. They almost look the same. Okay, they're not the same trees, of course, but they look somewhat uniform. They all have similar properties, smaller leaves and all that stuff. Okay, and that's because they all have to survive with climate. There's less variety in appearance, at least. Okay, now the next one is called the deciduous. I try to pronounce it. Mixed woodlands, might somebody call it. Okay, so mixed wood. Okay, it's located between 30 and 60 degrees north latitude. It's all over the place. Have this kind of biome. Okay, it is a little bit higher precipitation, and of course it's a bit warmer. That's because it gets way more sunlight than taiga because it's even south of taiga regions. Climate is nicer, way longer growing seasons. You can tell you can have distinct summer and winter now. Unlike taiga, you have a short summer, winter. Okay, and tundra, same thing. Okay, you won't tell when summer and when winter. In deciduous forest, I'm going to call it mixed woodland. Mixed woodlands, the the seasons are distinct, and because of the more energy and thermal energy stored in the soil and not that cold, the soil are not frozen, and soil tends to be more fertile as well. There are a lot more precipitation because of the more energy flow in the system. Okay, so it's a great place to grow trees, right? Because we call them that. Okay, so that's why it's on mixed woodland. All kind of variety of trees might grow. The average temperature around the yearly temperature is 1427, pretty warm. And if you remember, the precipitation is fairly high compared to the other regions. Okay, yes, on the high end, okay, taiga is still pretty high, 100 centimeters, but this one is consistently higher compared to tundra and taiga. Plants, of course, way more diversity. You have maple and birch. You still have the smaller plants always. They can survive anywhere. Okay, they can survive anywhere and those stuff. And then they have broader leaves, more efficient photosynthesis. You can see this is where you see trees of different type of leaves. You get all those cool leaf collections. They're usually if they're in a relatively colder region, but not too cold, it's probably from a mixed woodland biome. Same thing with animals, way more diversity of animals as well. We can live off different things. Okay, so here are some examples of animals and plant life. Okay, you can think about where you might see some of these within Canada. Next one, of course, come home. Let's move south. Let's get warmer. Okay, let's keep getting warmer, but not really getting warmer because grassland actually spend quite a large area in terms of temperature. But I digress. Location is anywhere that has 20 centimeter percent, a give or take, per year. Okay, at least 20%. I shouldn't say at least 20%. At least 20% a year. It's very broad. Okay, it's very broad. Okay, most of them are considered prairies and savannas. Alberta is mostly prairie area. Okay, prairies. We're not savanna. We're not that warm. Okay, it's grassy regions with very few trees. Very few trees. Yes, we have trees in Alberta. Okay, but compared to the grass regions, very lot. We get lots of sunlight. Okay, get lots of sunlight. Way more in the summer. Summer and winter are distinct. Soils hold moisture, but because acidic, doesn't grow as variety of trees. Precipitation is lower than that of woodlands. Okay, as you see earlier, less than that of woodlands. Okay, so there's not nearly as much precipitation. It's still a lot. It's still not. It's not compared to tundra, especially for tundra, but there's still quite a amount of precipitation because of low precipitation. Think about Alberta summers. We still have a lot rain, but not nearly as much as some of the other regions you can think of. Snow is considered precipitation. Think about those who snow all year long. But precipitation, it's not enough to grow like a variety of trees. So we don't have too much forest here until, of course, Alberta, you move towards the mountains, which actually changes to a different biome. See, within Alberta, the different biomes. Okay, it changes to a different biome just by moving into the mountains. Temperature, prairie is a little bit colder. Savanna is a bit warmer. Okay, savanna is more tropical. And plants, grassland, wink wink. And animals, think about Alberta animals and the safari animals in African area, savannas, right? If we think about safari animals, we talk about when you heard the word safari, right? A safari, not Pokemon safari, but okay, they adapt to dry climate. Okay, they adapt to dry climate, but not as dry as deserts, which we'll look at right away as well. Okay, we'll look at it right as well. So here, grassland is farmland, right? Farmland. It's called small crops. It doesn't require too much water. Okay, and it's vast areas. They can grow a lot of things without trees blocking it because trees doesn't grow. Okay, tree doesn't grow. Okay, so here are some pictures of savannas and savannas and prairies. Okay, so right here. There's some on the southern hemisphere too, right? Southern hemisphere. Right here. Okay, right there. All right, so that's grassland. Next, we're going to go to another extreme again, just to take a look. The rainforest. Just think about the name. Think about what does a rainforest have a lot of? Rain. And it says rain, not precipitate or whatever. Because it's very warm. You don't actually get snows there. Okay, some of you might be like, yay! It gets anywhere with 200 centimeter precipitation or more. Okay, 200 centimeters. Remember, I could try one again. It's 2,000 millimeters. As you will see, very often the case, we measure precipitation in millimeters because it's easier to graph. Actually, that's the reason. Anyway, anywhere between 200 centimeters or more, okay, it's usually considered rainforest. Okay, it's always warm. It's always warm. Temperature is very consistent. Okay, lots of sunlight. Okay, it's usually near the ocean as well, so temperature, it's very warm. Soil may be mineral poor because it's so much water that's dissolving and washing away the minerals. But also there's high level decomposition of animals. So there's also more things added to it. So there's no set thing to say the soil is definitely this way. But usually you will see a little bit less compared to the woodlands, maybe a little bit less variety of trees. Okay, you can think about rainforest. What kind of tree you might see, but still, there's lots of them. So maybe you cannot imagine it. Lots of precipitation, as I mentioned. Temperature is warm. Okay, this is the average temperature of the year. Average temperature is 25 to 30. Okay, some maybe if you're watching this video in the winter, it's like, oh, why can't I live in a rainforest area? All right, plants, so much energy they actually need to evaporate more water because it's too much. Okay, so they have large, broad leaves. Okay, shrubs lives everywhere. Evergreens lives a lot of places. Okay, you still have deciduous trees for those who are it's just right. You have all kind of animals. Okay, it's a great place for animals and to live because of the temperatures here, and the regions are very few and far in between. But usually you will notice usually by the ocean, because if you're near the ocean, it really helps to maintain that average temperature and maintain that precipitation. Okay, because you have lots of water reserved to evaporate and drive that water cycle. Okay, drive that water cycle. So it's usually near oceans. Yes, there are some inner. There's some inner. Okay, rainforest as well. Maybe that's a good thought. Why do you think rainforest goes that much inland in South Africa? South America, South Africa, South America. Okay. So these are animals. If you watch The Lion King, it's actually multiple biomes. Now I'm thinking about it. It's actually multiple biomes in Lion King. You started on a desert, and then you move. No, not desert. You once in the savannah, and you end up in a rainforest, and then you leave the rainforest. Anyway, I digress. But you can see some of the things in Lion King. Is a good place to see some biomes. Hey, what do you think? Yeah. And finally, we talked about 5. Finally, we talk about the last one. You probably know what we're going to say because I mentioned it already. It's called the desert. Another extreme case. Okay, you probably noticed when we study this, we're trying to do very extreme cases of each kind, right? Extreme cases, because in reality, everything's interconnected. I have to reinforce it over and over again. There's no hard cutoff. But desert is anywhere with less than 50 centimeters of 25 centimeters of precipitation per year, and it's hot. The 2 things: no water and hot. Desert. That's the 2 easiest descriptions. If you look at a set of data, if you think, oh, there's no precipitation all year long, and it's really hot, that's a desert. Okay. Soil very thin, not fertile. It has opposite problem. Too cold. Too cold. The everything is stored inside. Can't be. It's frozen. It won't be released. It won't react. Hot. It's the opposite. All of the water evaporated. There's nothing. There's nothing there. It's gone. There's nothing in there for you to observe. Okay. So there's nothing you can do. Precipitation, talk about really warm, precipitation really high. Like it's very similar. It's like a rainforest without the rain, and all the forest. That sounds sad. No forest, no rain. It's rainforest temperature without the rain or the forest. Okay. And plants are similar to tundra regions, except for very different reasons. They want to hold water. Instead of holding heat, they want to hold water. So they have also needle-like leaves. They're also smaller. Okay, they're trying to adapt to a dry environment. Animals tends to be smaller as well, right? You have lizards, snakes, coyotes, and usually insects, right? Small animals trying to survive. The less energy you spend, the less you need. So you're adapted to survive in dry climates. Okay, and most of them probably active only during the night. Okay, where temperature is low. Okay, temperature low and hopefully low enough. There's some moist and nutrient in the water they can use. I don't think I need to tell you what desert looks like. I probably see images of it all over the internet all the time. Okay, because it's a fairly iconic image. When we say deserts, okay, or if you're interested in history, you're probably pyramids and stuff. Okay, but that's what desert look like. Okay, and regions for deserts, both in, of course, mostly in the Middle East and North African area, but there's desert in Australia. You might notice, relatively, they are on the same latitude, about. Okay, that doesn't mean anything. Okay, that doesn't mean anything. There's a little bit of a desert in the west, on the west of North America as well, as you see right here. A little bit of a desert. Anyhow, so those are the 6 biomes. Those are the 6 biomes. Okay. That really wraps up the key for this, the key topic of this lesson. We would like to look at how we can analyze them in next video. But just wrapping up, okay, the 6 biomes are like basically distinguish the climates between different biomes. The animals that survive there, the plants that survive there, differs. Okay, think about why those certain animals live in certain biomes. Now that we describe them, now the biggest determining factors, okay, is the temperature and precipitation. Okay, together, not just hot and snowy or lots of rains, or cold and lots of rain, cold and dry, right? Well, in Canada, I asked the question earlier, but here's the answer. Canada, we have 4 regions: tundra, north end, okay, northern Canada, almost Alaska area, okay, taiga, northern Alberta, mountains, okay, mountains, and even just north of territories have a little bit taiga, but also they have tundra as well. Deciduous forests also in might have a little bit eastern area, have deciduous forest, eastern coast, okay, and have grasslands. Alberta, everybody, Alberta, right? So those are the 4 major biomes in what we studied in Canada. Which one do you think covers a large amount of area? Taiga. Okay, taiga has the most amount of area. Like I said, northern Alberta, even a little bit northwest territories, mountains, all. East coast have a little bit more more of the deciduous, the mixed woodlands. It's more on the east side. All right, so these are the biomes we have studied. Okay, these are the 6 biomes. Our next video, like I said, we'll take a look how we can help us identify or analyze different biomes, and how do we use certain tools to help us represent and collect data about the climate. Okay, it's something called the climatograph. So we'll take a look at climatograph next, and then we're going to combine climatograph and biomes to look at what are some of the climatograph. How can we predict what biome it is from a climatograph? All right, and with that, thank you for watching. Just note, on page 400 there is a picture, as I noted here, that shows you that's a pretty good picture, shows you a distribution of biomes in terms of temperature, precipitation, and the plants / animals that might live there. Okay, it's a good picture. Once again, it's open system, everything's interconnected. Try not to think of it as a hard cutoff. Okay, if sometimes you say, oh, this is called tundra, but temperature is like 5 degrees higher than my textbook's cutoff. Don't be hit. It's not that strict. Okay, and with that, thank you for watching. Please tune in next video. We'll talk about climatograph and how we can use it to analyze climate.